Shout out to Big Lori. Okay, so this is day 2 of Lori Daybell's trial. Yesterday, she had an opening statement, and the high points from her opening statement is that this is a self-defense case, and she has witnesses that the jurors do not even know are no longer here. So we'll see how it all pans out. But she did lay the ground, the roadmap for the jury. She pretty much, told them what they are to expect from these proceedings. Okay, so let's get into it. We're just going to focus on Lori's cross-examination. We're not focused on the prosecution here. Okay, the reason for that is because Lori Daybell's standby counsel. So let's see how she fares. I watched the first two. I believe it was the first two witnesses for the day. After that, I didn't watch anything. I should have actually come here sooner. I'm really tired. I ought to go to sleep. Now I wanted to hop on the live earlier, but I'm like, nah, expectations. They expect me to be here at a specific time. So I thought I had the right timestamp. What happened?
Yeah, we have some trauma shears in her
Hold on.
body, so she potentially other colleagues.
And when
Yeah,
blood
but so far.
Chest and do
Hold
one.
wounds is
All right, come on, Lori. So
I
far,
would
Lori has done
so-
okay.
That's-
Okay, what's going on? All right, come on, Judge. Let's see. What's up, Benji? Benji said I should not let Lori stress me. She upset me last night, but let's see how she does today or tonight. Okay, is that my... Why don't we have audio? Is that my device? Shout out to Lori, though. I think she changed suits. Because this looks navy. I think...
into the house.
Oh, there we go. They were muted.
what?
Are you having a good day, Benji?
Into the house, proceeded forward, saw the patient on the floor to the right,
Okay.
proceeded to the patient to start an assessment and evaluation.
And then Captain Keller had already come in.
I'm pretty confident, yes, he would have been quicker getting off the truck and inside.
And so you did your assessment and then what?
My assessment revealed that he was unresponsive, no pulse, no breathing, so I would have started CPR, started chest compressions.
Did you do that with his shirt on?
I would have lifted that out of the way so I could find the proper landmarks.
Okay.
So you had said that you saw that there was, let's see, 2 gunshot wounds, is that correct?
Yes.
And then you saw that through the shirt?
Man, shout out to Lori. That girl's doing her thing. I mean, she's relaxed and laid back right now, but when her sister, or not her sister, I'm sorry, her sister-in-law takes the stand, we might not be... I hope she, maintains her demeanor, but they might rile her up a little bit.
Or how did you assess that when you first
We
entered?
might see some
That's my question.
fireworks.
Once I'm doing CPR, I can see 2 bullet holes in the shirt. I can see that on the chest and on the abdomen. I can see the wounds as I'm looking at the chest and doing chest compressions.
Okay. And then
She
he had
said,
on
okay.
what color shirt?
I wouldn't have recalled other than, I guess, the video yesterday. I think it was a dark colored shirt I think we saw on the screen.
And so you had talked yesterday about the blood being more blood on chest, not pooled around your knees, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
And so with the dark shirt, was it hard to see the blood? I'm kind of trying to see what
Lori, where are you? Okay, she's saying what? She's trying to see what?
you saw when you entered.
Lori, that is not... Okay, so Lori is asking these questions whether, it was easy for, what is this? I think this is a paramedical, but I'm not sure. I've never been to Arizona. I'd love to go. Okay, random, but I'd love to go to Arizona though. Was it last year or the year before? I spoke to some lady that talked about there's supposed to be some train or something. I don't know. Let's move on. Okay, let's get back to Lori for a little bit. So Lori's asking questions about, what the officer saw as it relates to the shirt and blood. Lori, the purpose of asking this officer questions is really to further your defense. If you're not furthering your defense, then you have to be attacking his credibility. So, oh my goodness, Lori. Okay, let's.
I remember seeing blood on the chest. It wasn't, I remember not seeing blood on the abdomen.
And there were holes in the shirt, 2 holes in the front side?
I would, best of my recall, yes.
Lori, why are you asking that question? What are you trying to get at? Do you have evidence that contradicts what the witness is saying? Do you have a different theory? Why are you asking that question?
And when did you cut off the shirt, and how does that procedure work?
What procedure?
I continue doing CPR, chest compressions.
Sure.
One of my other colleagues would have cut that off. And knowing that the shirt maybe is potentially evidence, that's why I said to her, don't cut through where the holes are. So she
And
could,
Lori, you are asking questions that require this officer to pretty much explain things away. This is supposed to be classic cross-examination. Yes, no responses.
cut down the side instead of on the top of the body.
And do you use like a special scissors or something for that?
That
Yeah, we
girl,
have some
that girl said special scissors, so she's trying to attack, the type of scissors that they used.
trauma shears in our equipment.
Okay. And who was that? Was that Phelps?
Who was what?
I believe that was firefighter Kaczynski.
Okay. Kaczynski, that's one I didn't have. So who all was,
She said what? She said Kaczynski. Hold on, Lori.
okay. And who was that? Was that Phelps or,
I believe that was firefighter Kaczynski.
okay. Kaczynski, that's one I didn't have. So who all was sitting
That's one you didn't have what? You're not prepared for Kaczynski. What's going on, Lori?
there with you that was on scene at that time?
Firefighter Fife would have been there.
Mhm.
Firefighter Kaczynski, the 3 of us, kind of like we saw in the video or I get the picture yesterday. All 3 of us around the patient while Captain Keller was standing back a little bit, like you saw in the picture.
Okay.
Okay. She said, all
You
right,
said
come on.
that you had been a CPR instructor for 12 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And was that for the last
Who's
12
getting it,
years or
Lori?
12 years ago?
Approximate dates
Lori, what kind of question is that?
2004 to 2016, let's say.
Okay. And so have you taught people who have never done CPR before?
Have I taught those individuals? Yes.
Right. And not just like people renewing their certification, but both.
Correct.
Okay. How many people
Lori, okay, let's see. Maybe she's getting at something.
would you say that you've taught that have never done CPR before?
Never done CPR, and it's probably in the hundreds over that long of doing that.
So you'd be familiar with how a first timer would react?
Yeah, you try to forewarn them what to expect.
Okay. So these first timers, they have to be taught the appropriate place to place their hands. Would that be fair?
That is part of the course, yes.
Benji,
And so do you show them?
I'm okay. I'm just really tired. I'm tired. I was working on a demand today. some of the challenges from that were not because, are that I don't actually have I don't see a problem. Maybe I need to give it more thought, but it's kind of a weak case. So I did not exactly see a proper scare tactic for the insurance carrier, if that makes sense. If I have to explain that from a workers' comp, it's two different things. Okay, there's workers' compensation and then there's personal injury. Personal injury, this probably would not be that big a deal, but for workers' compensation, it is a big deal. And the reason why it's a big deal is because it's more so for workers' compensation, it's more so a numbers game. Okay, for workers' compensation, claim it's not one of those get rich kind of schemes. Like in a car crash you could potentially make some money if you are in a collision with, I don't know, what was the actor's name or the comedian's name, Tracy Morgan. If you get in a crash with like a Walmart or these large commercial vehicles and trucks, you can make some money because again, your limits as to what the carrier can be liable for is based on their insurance or their insurance policy limits. Workers' compensation does not necessarily work that way. It's based on body parts. It sounds weird, but it's really based on body parts. And every body part has a mathematical calculation. It's based on a percentage, a permanent impairment percentage that they get from a what is this? An IME doctor, basically an expert in quotation marks, and then it's calculated by X number of weeks. So workers' compensation again, claimants are limited to that mathematical equation in order to make money for the client in a workers' compensation claim beyond what they otherwise would be entitled just for the injury. uh there's a demand, like a general, just know that in the end there's some type of release where the claimant cannot sue the employer if things get worse. Okay, so the case that I currently have is one where there are no real avenues to go beyond the mathematical equation because the claimant is pretty young. They've returned to work, so usually it's scary when somebody um, possibly cannot return to work again. This guy's young, so he's back to work. So I've just been scratching my head trying to figure out exactly what my demand is going to look like because I'm out of options at this point. This is probably the youngest person. This might actually be the youngest person that I've represented. Usually I represent much older people, and with much older people, it's easier to show that they're not able to return to work because typically there's nothing else they can do. But this guy, he was hit by some dump truck that was traveling like 40, 50 miles an hour. And then he was, it was a mess, but he's pretty young and he's motivated. So he went back to work. And yeah, that's a long way. That's a long way of answering, but I had a complicated day, probably complicated week and next week. But I'm glad that you're doing good, Benji.
Or do you just tell them in class where to put their hands?
It's a video-based system through American Heart. There's
All
a
right, Lori.
curriculum that we would have been following.
Okay. So if you could only tell them, like over the phone, that might be difficult for them to know the correct placement of their hands if they've never done it before.
Okay, so I suppose she's attacking CPR that was performed by the brother, but how? All right. It might be a good angle. Shout out to Lori, though. Lori is doing really good. Lori is doing really, really good.
I guess it depends on the instructions that the dispatcher gave. Ultimately, if I was telling somebody over the phone, you want to put your hands on their chest, on the lower part of the chest. It's that.
I believe if we have to go back to Colin Griffith, that dispatcher told Colin to put his hands over the nipple or something like that. I believe that's what she said.
Kind of simple, so to speak.
Okay. But without the video, if you were teaching a
The-
class and you didn't have the video, it might be difficult, right? For a bunch of first timers.
Objection, speculation.
Overruled.
Shout out to Big Lori. The judge said the author or the witness can answer. Okay. So she's asking some
You can answer.
questions.
Does me answer? Okay. Sorry. Can you repeat the question then?
Yeah, so it might be difficult. If you didn't have the video, it might be difficult, for a bunch of first timers to know exactly what to do if you just had to tell them middle of the chest, lower chest.
You could obviously show on a person. You could show on yourself.
If you couldn't show them and you could only tell them, could it be difficult?
I suppose it's possible depending on the person.
Okay, that's fair. So do you think that your CPR class would be fairly successful if you had no visuals?
Objection, relevance, speculation.
Shout out to Big
Next question.
Lori.
I got it, Your Honor.
You got it. Of course
So
you
if
got
a
it.
person had never done it before
asked
and
them a
was just
question.
told how to do it, is it possible that they might not be acquainted with where to put their hands?
It's possible.
And it would also be possible that they might not do it properly.
That could be possible too.
And right now, when you're teaching CPR, and I didn't say you are teaching right now, but if you're teaching a class, are they just doing percussions now? There's no breathing in the mouth, is that correct?
It's going to depend on the level of the class.
She
As far
learned some
as the lay
CPR.
rescuer, people that have never done it before that just want to have the training. It's evolved and we're teaching compression only. That is a form of CPR now also, just doing chest compressions.
And how long do you teach to do that for? How long of a period before you take a rest or?
Well, it varies depending on if patient is an adult or a child. There are different guidelines that American Heart offers. So in those courses, they're getting to learn information for adults and children and infants also.
Okay.
Correct, right.
You
So
said correct.
for an adult, how long, like 30, 100, 150? It's been a while, so just wondering.
With an adult, they're also taught they need to call for help right away also. So that's a factor. Are they alone? Is somebody else able to call? Can they call, put the phone on speaker, start, while talking to 911? And then they would just keep going until help arrives.
Yeah.
So there's no timing, like
I'm trying to get it all together, Benji. So I have to give it, I don't know, I have to strategize. I have to figure out exactly what it is that I'm doing.
take a 10-second break, you just do compressions?
Not for that type of level of CPR, there wasn't.
Okay. So it's helpful if you had someone there that you could take turns, like I do 100 and then you do 100, because it's kind of exhausting, right?
Objection, compound question, relevance.
I'll sustain it as the compound question. You can re-ask the question ask it in a different way. Go ahead.
Don't get thrown off.
So
No, just re-ask the question, Lori. Hold on. Let me help her. Let's
I'll
go back.
sustain it.
okay, compressions, no timing,
And then they would just keep going until help arrives.
Okay.
so there's no timing, like you take a 10-second break, you just do compressions?
Not for that type of level of CPR, there wasn't.
Okay. So it's helpful if you had someone there that you could take turns, like I do 100 and then you do 100, because it's kind of exhausting, right?
She could have asked the same after the judge sustained her line of questioning. She could have asked the same question but stopped right there, as opposed to asking more than one question in one
Objection,
go.
compound question, relevance.
I'll sustain it as the compound question. You can re-ask the question ask it in a different way. Go ahead.
So how long did you administer the CPR before you did the flip over? How long do you think that was?
Before we rolled him to look at the back, is that what you're?
Correct. Yes, that's
You
correct.
said flip over.
I would estimate maybe up to a minute.
Okay. And then were you counting compressions? Is that what you were doing during that time, or do you not count? You just do it for a certain amount of time?
I don't recall if I was counting. I mean, I was doing the chest compressions while waiting for the rest of the team to arrive and for us to continue assessing, see if we're going to continue to work the patient and utilize more equipment.
And there were 3 of you there?
4 total, but 3 by the patient.
Okay. And then you could take turns, right? Like trade off if you needed to?
If we needed to, yes.
So that'd be a lot easier than when you're just there by yourself.
She's actually, she recovered well. Because it was, her compound question or the objection to the question about, 100 chest compressions or whatever, and then somebody else taking over.
Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Lori. She
do you know-
she got my kites overnight.
How long, after the rolling over, did you started doing compressions again? Is that correct?
Yes.
That's what I had.
Yes. I
What do you mean
believe
that's
so.
what you
And
had?
how long did you do that for?
Are
I
those
would
the notes you
I would
took?
estimate maybe upwards of another minute
So maybe 2 minutes total?
during that sequence, yes.
And was there another sequence?
At some point, we would have stopped doing chest compressions so we could evaluate the heart rhythm. That's on
Follow-up
the
question.
heart monitor.
With the heart
And you
monitor?
can't be doing compressions to evaluate that.
Okay. And then you didn't continue compressions after the heart monitor at all?
From what I recall, I resumed again in brief discussion as far as what direction we were going to go.
And what were the results of the heart monitor?
All right, are you done,
There
Lori?
was no
I want
electrical
action.
activity.
And how long was the heart monitor applied?
Yeah, these are not good questions, Lori. You're not asking good questions because you're allowing the officer to explain things away. You're really supposed to be asking yes, no, or eliciting yes, no responses.
Compared to when you started the first compressions?
A line of questioning or questioning along this line would make sense if she had planned on impeaching him, in the sense that she had information that was contradictory to what he testified to, and she's trying to kind of catch him in a aha moment. But right now, she's just she's just asking questions, and that's
I'm not sure if
not
I understand
very
the question.
effective.
Maybe you can reword it or.
Sure. How far into your treatment, I should say,
Treatment.
did you guys stop and do the heart monitor?
I would estimate that the monitor probably was on within 2 minutes
Okay.
of making patient contact.
Okay. And how long does that take?
To do what? To put it on?
Well, yeah, to put it on, get a reading, and decide what you're going to do next.
It could take, you got to turn it on, open up a compartment to get the pads out of that compartment. You've got to open that packaging to be able to apply it to the patient's chest area. If the chest is wet, which there's some blood, you need to dry that so it's going to adhere more properly, read more properly. So you could be looking at 30 seconds to a minute possibly of working through that.
Okay. And did you have to do that in this case, is remove blood to stick them on?
Just
I
stick
would
them
assume
on.
so, but I was doing chest compressions, so that would have been one of the other two firefighters kind of working through that.
Okay.
Okay, Lori, what was the purpose? Why'd you ask those questions?
So I understand correctly, you said when you rolled him over, did you cut the shirt in the back also to see the exit wounds? Is that?
No, we only had to cut the shirt one time. That was when he was still laying on his back. You cut it down the side and that opens it up to where then you can remove it from the body, pull it off.
So you did pull it off completely at some point?
More than likely, I would say yes. That's typically what we
Okay.
would do.
Okay. But you don't remember if you did that in this case?
I know that I didn't do that because I was doing chest compressions. So I would assume one of my colleagues did that completely. That's typically what we do.
Okay.
Can you
And so
please
you're
let
back
me,
to
okay?
doing the compressions for the third time, and then you stopped that at some point. Was there another procedure after that?
No, at that point in time is when we would have
All right, let's move on to the next cross because maybe
called the
just-
patient.
And who announces that?
Ultimately, I remember our captain, since he's in charge of the crew, would be considered the lead medic. He has the most experience. He's also charting the call, kind of running it, kind of made that final decision.
And that would be Captain Keller? I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yes, correct.
You're so sweet.
And then he did call it at, do you know what?
Told by Chandler, please, that
hold on.
it's secure and you can come in.
Moments before we got there,
Get to
dark
cross.
clothes, I'm not sure.
Unlikely.
Right.
So when you're looking at
Man,
coming and starting probably with her ex.
Show that at some point while I was running away from
oh,
Charles.
this is opening from
he was
yesterday.
chasing me with the bat.
I thought she did all right. I thought she did okay.
That an opinion as to which shot was first as opposed to which shot
Yeah,
was,
what are they talking about?
you felt that his disclosure
Hold on. They all know I'm nosy, so I need to hear what they're saying from the very beginning. Let's see. Yeah, I cannot wait for, the family members to take the stand because I will be very surprised if Lori keeps her composure. If she keeps her composure, she's probably the best pro se litigant that I've seen on YouTube. Let's see. Okay, maybe I went back too far.
Judge, we do need to raise one issue. I was advised that juror, I believe 15,
Okay.
was looking
Now I
at
sound
his
like
cell
Lori.
phone during the testimony of the previous witness. I don't know if it was coincidence, but right after that, he put a question into the question box. We did have a very detailed medical questions for Captain Keller.
is that the gentleman with the white hair and the glasses?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I wanted to see if we could ensure that there isn't any
Somebody's
additional
whispering.
All right.
investigation going on.
Let's bring juror 15 in.
There's always something going on. What is she saying? What's Lori saying? She knows. I don't know if they showed her or not. She has to mute her mic when she's talking to standby counsel. But
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I last week on Monday asked you if you were objecting to him as an expert as much as late disclosure, and your at that time said it was late disclosure, that the case had been pending for 4 or 5 years, and that you felt that his disclosure a month approximately before trial was late. I then said I would go back and look at the state's 15.1 supplemental disclosure statement about his testimony. And it appears from the avowal made in that statement that he has relevant information that could assist the jury in making a determination. Do you want to be heard on that?
We only want to hear from Lori.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay?
I feel like it was the state just
You
putting him on
feel.
as an expert so that he can give his opinion. I wasn't objecting to him as a detective and someone who's been there on the case or as the scene agent, but he went from scene agent to expert so that he can give his opinion. And I don't think it is relevant that he can give his opinion at this time. We weren't allowed to have enough time to get someone to rebut his professional opinion.
All right, look at Lori. Look at Lori.
Based on his training and experience, he was going to make an opinion about one of the gunshots
What happened to the jury?
being fired,
That's what I really want to know.
possibly from the victim laying in a prone position.
As a firearms expert, and we haven't had a CV on how he's a firearms expert.
There was information on his training and experience contained within that 15.1 statement.
All right, let's
I
move
think
on.
As the scene agent,
This.
These overall photographs before we,
and is that,
Okay. I'm just trying to get the cross. That's
what are we seeing here?
all I'm
items,
interested
there's no
in.
two.
Now, if I can have my paralegal go retrieve that.
it belonged to a 45 automatic pistol.
In this case, did the medical,
Or is admitted.
and is that what then we see here?
All right, when does Lori cross-examine? I think tomorrow I might show up much earlier and we can watch this live.
When the pistol is pistol.
We have exhibits. Hold on.
And specific for pistol, and the 3 placards next to the pistol are specific for the pistol itself, the magazine from the pistol, and potentially the chambered round in the
Hold on.
pistol.
Okay. So 74, is that a close-up of that pistol?
It is.
What kind of pistol was that?
Pardon,
What caliber was it?
it's a 45.
Is that the same caliber as the casings that you had found in the front room next to Charles?
Yes.
Okay, so casings more than one.
Does this show another angle of that pistol in 75?
Yes, looking at the top of the pistol.
When the pistol, as we see, is picked up in 76, the individual's wearing gloves. Why is that?
Again, to help preserve the evidence, in the event that DNA were to need to be done, we could articulate that we did not touch it with our bare hands to impart our DNA onto it.
Are you visually looking at this gun to see, and this is 77,
I got
if
distracted.
there is any
Got distracted. I'm supposed to be finding
visible biological
cross.
evidence, blood on this gun?
Yes, we do look at them to
Okay.
help determine that.
Let's get to Lori though. That's
99,
that's who
were
we're
you
interested
able
in.
at that point to start,
Wait, is there no
have any
cross?
concept or have a idea? Did that sort of end your involvement in processing this whole scene?
So I guess he's done. Let's get to Lori. That's who we are interested in. That's why we're gathered here. I don't know why is it buffering? I don't know.
Informed us basically of
Okay, there we go.
Who did,
such. We
Let's see. Let's see how she fares with her cross. Ah, there we go. One more mess it up.
Detective Coons, you are the scene agent
I'm surprised she did not ask this detective how to pronounce his name.
that day on scene, is that correct?
Primarily, yes.
And did you work for someone else before Chandler Police Department?
United States Army, Arizona Department of Corrections,
Oh
couple
no,
other,
Lori, wasn't that information provided during direct? What exactly are you getting at?
little jobs after I got out of the Army.
Did you work for,
The
Couple
gateway?
other little jobs after I got out of the Army.
Forwarding?
did you work for Gilbert Police Department at all?
No,
Okay, do you have evidence that shows otherwise?
And as the scene agent that day, you talked about, you were there. Did you write a report about that day?
yes, ma'am.
Look at Lori. I'm so proud of let me not get ahead of myself, but she's doing very good. She's asking decent
When
questions.
did you write that report?
I don't know the day I sat down to write it. It was shortly after the event,
So close to July 11th, 2019?
close to it.
Is he contradicting
Within a week,
himself?
maybe?
Again, I don't recall when I specifically started typing that.
A week maybe is not good. Do you have a date?
And when you arrived that day, who was there already?
Patrol officers,
Lori,
Just them?
the fire department might have been there. Alex Cox was
I still
there.
don't know what she's getting at.
Other detectives arrived. I couldn't tell you the order of which everybody arrived.
And where did you park?
I parked north of the scene.
And then did you go directly in? And then did you go directly into the house?
No, ma'am.
What did you do first?
We received a briefing of what patrol officers had learned. We learned that there was a body inside the residence, and we came up with an investigative plan.
Who did that debriefing to you?
I don't think anybody specifically ran the debriefing. We, as detectives, gathered around the patrol officers, and they informed us basically of what they had seen and what they had been told.
And who were those detectives with you?
Well, Detective Duncan would have been there with me. Detective Moffett would have been there. I didn't take a roll call of all the detectives there. Possibly Detective Inclin. I don't know.
Okay. And then where did you proceed after that?
Okay, so Lori, why are you asking these questions? What are you trying to get at, Lori?
Debriefing.
Well, after the debriefing, I provided the information of what I had learned.
She's asking open-ended questions as if this is her witness. Lori, you're not doing it right.
To Detective Kaminsky, who is still back at the police department, and gave him the information necessary to request a search warrant for the residence.
And what is she writing down?
And then what?
What do you mean, and then what? Lori?
We waited.
To get the search warrant?
Yes, ma'am.
To have it issued?
To see if the judge would issue it, yes.
And how long did that take?
Don't believe we got word back from the courts until,
Oh my goodness. I don't even have to watch direct because Lori's doing, the prosecution's direct for them.
it would have been probably between 11:30, 11:45, and then we made the entry shortly thereafter.
So is it your protocol that you can't enter until the search warrant is issued?
That is what we do once the scene has been.
Okay, so Lori, are you trying to say that they entered prior to securing a search warrant? What exactly are you getting at?
Made secure, yes.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay?
And then when you entered, who entered with you?
Lori, listen to me. Listen. you're not doing it right. Uh, what on earth?
Myself, the crime scene tech, we were the initial ones. I think Detective Duncan might have come
Okay,
in with
so
us.
what was the purpose of asking about the search warrant, how long it took, waiting for a search warrant to be issued before they could enter? What was the purpose of all of that? You're pretty much just showing that the not the prosecutor, but the law enforcement did things according to the book. What are you getting at? You want to show the opposite. You want to show that it's not a responsibility, but you're basically would like to show that they screwed up the investigation was improper. I don't know what Lori's doing.
as well. But that would have been the extent of the initial entry.
Do you know the name of the crime scene tech that was with you?
Jordan,
Is that
Lori.
the last name or first name?
the last name.
Lori, if you Lori, I do not doubt that Lori actually, review the evidence and reports. In this case, she should have known or would have known that name. I don't know the purpose of why she's asking. I just, Lori.
And then what did you do after that?
Well, after that, we
I'm
continued to
literally
go
holding
with
my
our
head
normal
because Lori's giving me a headache.
process of having photographs taken. I did the lizard Q spheres. I
Lori, why is the prosecution's witness testifying a second time?
completed getting information necessary for the diagram that was presented and continued to just do our job.
So is that protocol to do
Lori has pretty much turned into the prosecutor. She's prosecuting herself.
photographs first?
That would be our protocol, yes.
Why does
And then
that
what do you do
matter?
after that?
Lori, no, Lori, you read the wrong part. You read the wrong part of trial practice, okay? Open-ended questions are for your own witnesses, okay? This is an adverse witness, so you're supposed to be cross-examining them. Oh my goodness.
I know that you were searching for the
Lori, you need to go back. You need to go read some more. Go back to the library.
blood in all the rooms. When did that occur?
That occurs after the initial photographs are done, and then we can walk through and look in the particular areas that's been photographed already.
Okay, so the photographs are finished and then you guys kind of walk
I
through.
hope Lori's taking an insane amount of notes, okay? I suppose she's already preparing for closing, or maybe she's preparing for a motion for a directed verdict. But Lori, you are failing at this stage, okay? This is you're failing at this stage of the adversarial process. You're really supposed to be attacking him, okay? If you cannot attack the evidence that they gathered, then you have to attack his credibility. You're not doing yourself any favors.
Or at least finished in an area that we can actually walk through, yes.
Okay.
What do you
And
mean,
then when
okay?
did you set up the tripod how long after that?
So the
Lori.
tripod was set up
Lori's stressing me. Lori's stressing me out.
after the area had been photographed. So that way I wasn't interfering with anything. And that way we're not having the tripod in our original photographs.
Right. Makes sense.
What do you mean it makes sense? It's not supposed to make sense. This person is not testifying in your favor, Lori. What do you mean it makes sense? It's not supposed to make sense. What? Oh my God.
And do you think, so Detective Duncan was with you going through the
Lori.
house?
I believe he was there, yes.
So it was basically the two of you or three of you going through
What do
room by
you mean
room, or were you split up, or how does that work?
We would have divided and conquered a little bit to make the search a little bit more expedient. But
I don't know. Lori might be taking notes because she's going to write a book or something. Because I do not understand why she's trying to understand the officer This is not really your job right now. You don't want to understand the officer, and you definitely don't want the jurors to have to understand the officer a second time. She must be preparing to write a book once everything's done. Because I just doesn't make sense.
That,
Oh, you
again,
should
you're
have kept
slowed
your
to the
attorney.
time frame of what it takes to do the overall photographs.
Benji said it makes sense. Benji said it makes sense. Lori should have kept her attorneys. That's what she should have done. Kept her attorneys. It's like it makes sense. It checks out. Lori.
So the photographs took about how long?
I don't ever look at my watch.
Lori, are you attacking the timeline? What exactly is going on? Because I don't know what you're talking about anymore. I suppose when she, as far as her attack on, she did not really do a good job when she asked. It was yesterday, and I believe the first witness for the day when she, cross-examined on what is this, chest compressions, and basically, I think her argument, it did not come through clear, but I believe the point that she was trying to drive home is that her husband was alive. This is far-fetched, but it sounds like the argument she was making as far as CPR, chest compressions, she was trying to make the argument that the husband possibly was alive, and the medics did not offer him any life-saving measures. That's what it sounded like. Not that it helps her, but that's what it sounded like. So I'll give her credit for that. As far as this line of questioning here, I don't know what Lori's doing. I just, I don't get it, Lori.
See how long it takes, because it's a big house, as you're aware. And I let
Where? Because you live there.
the crime scene tech do their job. I don't push them and tell them that TikTok, there's nothing like that. It's do your job, we'll follow along.
Okay, and you guys started that process at about 11:45?
I think the actual time would have been closer to noon that we would have started that process.
Isn't it 11:45 close to noon?
And about how long did it take to go through the whole house, and about how long was that process?
Again,
Miss
for
Lori
me,
Sands?
I don't document how long it takes for any particular task because each scene is different. I just focus on doing the tasks. I rarely take a look at my watch to see how much time I'm spending on it because I want to do the job. I don't care about the time it takes.
Lori, you're not helping us
And
out.
you did not pick up any of the evidence?
What's written on her notepad? Hold on. I'm getting really nosy.
That was marked. That wasn't part of your protocol, is to take the evidence into custody. Is that correct?
Most of the evidence I did not pick up, correct.
And whose job is that?
We usually defer to the
Lori, did you not go through discovery? Did you not listen to this witness testify?
crime scene techs to do that. There are times that we will assist them with doing it depending on what the item is.
So that day, was it Jordan who did that? Was he the crime scene tech that took that evidence?
She would have been the one that was collecting at our direction, yes.
Okay, let's wait for Jordan to.
And so
take the
you kind of
stand.
pointed out as the detectives, and then they pick it up and.
Correct, because they're trained how to handle evidence, how to
This is
package
your
evidence, how to
question.
process. So we work in tandem together. We're the investigative body and they're the scientific portion of it.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Oh,
Okay.
Lori. That girl said it makes sense. Lori, it's not supposed to make sense. You are the defendant and you're acting as your attorney. This is, or your own attorney. This is an adverse witness. What he testifies to is not supposed to make sense. Oh my goodness, Lori. Oh, Lori.
Did you,
That girl said it makes
what time do you think that well, let's ask this. After you're done with the photos, and then you're done with checking the house, and
Okay.
all of the evidence is picked up and logged, then what else do you do at the house? What else-
Lori, listen. You're basically you're kind of testifying at this point because you're not even asking questions. But you're pretty much saying they did everything according to the book. it's not, you're not the prosecutor. I mean, you kind of are prosecuting yourself, but it's not supposed to make sense. And you're not supposed to, at least out loud, you should not be confirming that, they did things accordingly. You're supposed to be attacking him.
What did you do at the house that day?
Well, you just bundled that up
Oh,
into
that's
like,
what I said, Lori. That's what I said, Lori. Listen. Oh my goodness, Lori. Hold on. We need to go back. Let's go back. I don't know what Lori has going on.
how to handle evidence, how to package evidence, how to process. So we work in tandem together. We're the investigative body and they're the scientific portion of it.
Makes sense.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
What time do you think that well, let's ask this. After you're done with the photos, and then you're done with checking the house, and all of the evidence is picked up and logged, then what else do you do?
All the evidence is not supposed to be picked up, and all the evidence is not supposed to be logged. That's the only way it helps you, Lori.
At the house? What else did you do at the house that day?
Well, you just bundled that up into like tiny little package, but it took a long time to get to the point that you're talking about. So my day pretty much involved the scene. As far as ancillary jobs to go somewhere else or do other things, now my day was pretty much spent there on Four Peaks.
Correct.
What do you mean,
Yeah.
correct?
So,
Wait, Lori.
correct. Yeah. So,
Lori, listen. There's a reason why people actually go to law school and why it's an extended. I'm gonna give Lori a pass. She deserves one. She's struggling a little bit.
when did you leave the residence then?
We secured from the house.
And Lori, didn't you write your questions out? Why are you struggling?
Sometime between 4 and 4:30 p.m.
Okay, what are you writing for 4:30 p.m. down for? Unless you're going to, unless all these witnesses, their timelines do not add up. Not that it's, I don't know that it's going to make much of a difference, but.
And what other tasks did I miss that you accomplished
What do you mean, Lori?
during that 12 o'clock to the 4:30 time? I just don't know what you were doing in there. I'm just wondering.
Well, we identified.
She's just wondering. I don't know what you're doing in there investigating me or my brother, but I'm just wondering. Lori,
That you accomplished during that 12 o'clock to the 4:30 time.
this is not the time to wonder. This is the time to attack his credibility. Okay, attack credibility. That's what you should be doing.
I just don't know what you were doing in there. I'm just wondering.
Well, we identify the proper or the evidence items were.
I mean, here's the thing though. Lori is kind of likable. I do not know if it's Benji or Obag, I believe from last night, where they said she has a really sweet voice and she sounds like a librarian. She seems likable. Benji says sheesh. She went in here with some she definitely blind confidence. The ego to think you can defend yourself in court. She does not sound as confident as you. Do you think yesterday she was making some valid points. Today she's a little shaky. Benji said, I'm thinking she's going to sound less and less confident as time goes on. I think the biggest difference will come when she has to cross-examine people, not law enforcement, her ex-husband's family, loved ones. I think that might be problematic. If she's composed, I'll be very surprised. But shout out to Lori though. She has some balls. She has some real
Looking
balls.
for other evidence items. I am still doing the diagram, so measurements need to be done.
Okay.
We have to wait for the medical examiner to arrive because we can't do anything with the body until
Lori,
they
why are you writing this stuff down? I don't understand what you're doing.
show up. And then once they show up, we pretty much stop with the other projects until we can focus on the body and get the body out of there, because there aren't very many investigators for the medical examiner in the county. So we don't want to tie them up longer than we have to. And then we'll resume searching or identifying information, evidence, collecting it, and working our way to a conclusion where we can
Lori,
leave
this man is not supposed to be testifying a second time, okay?
the scene.
What do you mean, okay? Lori, what happened to your preparation?
So after searching the whole entire house, did you guys search the backyard at all?
It was searched.
What's the purpose? Why are you asking that question, Lori?
Did you do that or did someone else do
I
that?
did not.
Who would have been in the backyard?
What's in the
searching?
backyard, Lori? What's in the backyard that, unless, are you saying they missed evidence that, points to your self-defense claim? What's in the backyard?
It would have either been another detective or we would have asked an officer to do it.
And what would they be looking for?
Oh, Lori does not even know. Lori does not even know what they're supposed to be looking for in the back. So why'd you ask about? Listen, Lori, if you're asking a question about, a search in the background, it has to be because you're trying to point out something in the backyard. Lori is stressing me.
Any blood evidence, anything to indicate, based upon the information we had of the
Lori
event
is
that
really
took place
freaking me out.
inside that house.
Okay. All right, Lori, come on.
So when you made,
You have too many pieces of paper. You need to clear your workstation.
your assessment,
When he did what?
your assessment made, your assessment, you were able to leave after that assessment?
What do you mean by assessment? Do you mean investigation? Are you referring to the report? What assessment are you talking
Was
about,
made?
Lori?
That everything was accomplished?
Oh, what assessment?
Yeah. I swear I did not watch this. Okay. I did not watch this, but it's just Lori's not a real lawyer, but in a criminal court context, in a criminal investigation context, I have never heard of an officer talk about or testify about an assessment they made. It's different though. If you have a medical professional understanding, it might be different because that's a medical term. That's a term that's used a lot in the medical legal world. But what is she talking? Investigation? Is that what you're talking about, Lori?
Are you talking about?
That all the evidence was gathered and collected?
That I was satisfied that we had collected what we needed to collect?
Correct.
Yes.
That's not even what Lori was getting. She's just like, yes. She does not want to be cross-examined, so she's just gonna agree.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for what are you thanking him for? I mean, but here's the thing. I think she took some lessons on how to be likable. So that helps her a little bit, just a little bit.
You just have Ms. Fallon move her reports away from the onwards showing.
Oh, is it showing?
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, actually, let's just turn that off until we need it. Thank you.
Oh, maybe she's trying to show the jurors some stuff. She might have been writing some notes to the jurors. Okay. Lori might be, she's not that bright, but she's not that dumb either. Okay, Lori's out there probably writing notes saying, you know, acquit, acquit, acquit. All right. Lori, you have way too many notes up there with you to begin with. Okay, way too many notes. Too much. There's too much going on. You need to be organized. And where's your paralegal? There's always somebody coughing in these courtrooms. All right, come on,
You
Lori.
stated earlier that the weapon, the type of weapon that was found was a 45 caliber?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a semi-automatic?
It is.
Okay.
He's like, it is. Are you going to contradict the evidence, Lori?
How is that different from like a revolver? What's the difference?
Lori, listen. If your cross-examination is based on the distinction between a 45 and a revolver, you have to put that information in front of this detective, okay? You have to ask him questions where he just says yes, no responses. So you should be telling him about, or asking him about the different features and the similarity. Don't have this man just up. You cannot have this man just up here testifying about revolvers and 45 sounding like an expert.
Between that.
The build itself, I like to use simplistic.
And what's your point? I'm trying to figure out if what is Lori's point? It's one thing if she's going to argue that the 45 was planted. Oh, she could actually, this would have been, I said this before, I said this last night. This would have been a decent defense case. This, again, criminal law is not rarely concerned with factual truth, okay, just substantive truth. But this would have been a decent, what is this? Criminal, it would have been a good defense case, but Lori's just messing the case up.
Terms when I describe what a revolver looks like. Most people are familiar with a Western movie. So the wheel gun.
Now he's out here talking about Western movies. So why'd you do
That's
this?
a revolver. What you see modern police officers carrying these days are semi-autos. So that's kind of the analogy I give to people that don't know guns.
And what's the difference between when you're shooting a semi-automatic or shooting a revolver, how fast you can shoot? Does that make sense?
The speed on which somebody can shoot is dependent upon the shooter themselves. The skill level they have, the weapon they might be using. There are a lot of circumstances and things that happen to be able to qualify that statement.
Right. And
What do you mean, right? What do you mean, right, Lori? That girl said, right. You're not supposed to be agreeing with the prosecutor's witnesses, just so you know.
There are a lot of circumstances and things that happen to be able to qualify that statement.
Right. And you have taken many gun classes, right? That we heard of.
You did what?
Right. And you have taken many gun classes, right? That we
No, Lori, Lori, you're not supposed to make it sound like this man knows what he's talking about.
And I'm an instructor.
Oh my goodness. Look at Lori. Look at Lori.
Yes.
And you're an instructor. So when you're taking a gun class, is it common?
Lori, this better be a good question. I'm just telling you now. I was actually really tired and sleepy before I got up here, but Lori has injected some life into me.
And for them to say,
what?
Is it common that
a judge is having an easy payday? He just has to sit through 5 weeks of testimony and not do anything.
they tell you to shoot center mass?
Who's they? Isn't he the instructor?
Is that a common term?
That is what we train as police officers, is to shoot center mass. It has the highest probability of guaranteeing a hit on the adversary that you're trying to shoot.
Right. So if you were being attacked, you should point at center mass. Is that correct?
That is what's trained, and
Okay, so Lori, was your brother a trained officer? What exactly are we actually getting at here?
because stress can obviously create issues, but yes.
Is it a common term to say to center mass?
No,
In
that
training?
that is something that I've heard, but I wouldn't classify it as common.
Would you teach that in your class?
It depends on what class is and what we're actually doing. If it's standard officers, no, I don't tell them to always
Prosecution's just letting this go on.
shoot to center mass.
But it's good for our guy.
No,
If it was a novice who was like taking a gun class for the first time, would you teach them that?
no.
What would you teach them?
You would teach them to shoot till the threat went away. And that can be with one shot. It can be with more than one shot.
Okay, that's fair.
What do you mean it's fair? That was actually a good response. It's a response that does not exactly help Lori, but the idea that an individual is trained to shoot until the threat went away. It kind of sounds like, the brother, or Alex, I believe is his name. Alex shot once. That did not disable the, who's this? That did not disable, I forgot the decedent's name. That did not disable Lori's ex-husband, so he had to shoot a second time in order to disable him. So as far as that part of the testimony could help Lori a little bit, but she did not develop the rest, or maybe, I don't know, we still have 15 minutes. Maybe she asks a follow-up questions, but that would have been a good point for her to actually, ask about again, or develop further as far as
So in
cross-examination.
this particular gun, the 45, when the shells are ejected, where do they go?
Out and away.
Benji says she's being so friendly after they finish testifying every time to sound agreeable. It makes her likable. So it might work in her favor as far as the jurors are concerned. For me, the concern is not so much her likability. I mean, that might change though when the sister-in-law takes the stand. Things might go all the way. I don't know. They might go to Mars or Venus or wherever things go. But it makes her. She's easy to listen to because she's so. I don't want to use the word agreeable, but she is agreeable. She really sounds like a prosecutor. She kind of is an extension of the prosecution branch and is prosecuting herself, but she's pleasant to listen to.
So in
She's not doing herself any favors because she's really supposed to. The purpose of cross-examination is to attack the prosecution's case. And this prosecutor is not going to be objecting to these lines of questioning because they help the prosecutor.
this particular gun, do they go to the right or to the left?
I have not test fired this particular gun. I believe that most semi-automatics do eject the casings out to the right. Whether it's high right, low right, I'm not sure. It could be farther forward, it could be farther back. I did not test fire this gun, so I cannot speak specifically to how this particular gun ejects, other than most likely to the right.
But it could go to the left?
No, not the way the ejection port is set up.
So no guns that are 45s could go to the left?
Certainly, you could have a left-handed gun set up that it would eject that way, but the way this particular gun is set up, the ejection port dictates which way that's going to go. When the slide cycles back, and that extractor pulls the casing back, the ejector is usually located on the opposite side of the extractor, and that will kick it out of the actual ejection port of the slide.
So for someone like me who doesn't really understand guns too well, you would say that
Lori, if you're going to be cross-examining somebody that's, a self-proclaimed gun expert or instructor, you're supposed to know about guns. And don't even be out there telling folks that you don't know about guns. It was your job to educate yourself on guns.
Right-handed gun, they would eject out of the right, but a
That's
left-handed gun,
the purpose of cross-examination. You're supposed to, know what you're asking.
they could eject out of the left.
And they're very rare to see.
And do people have left-handed guns? I guess I never really thought about that.
Some people do.
What do you mean you never thought about this? Is not Lori, are you gathering information for a book or something? Because all the commentary.
If you're left-handed, you'd want that, I guess.
Lori. Let's think. Let's go back to opening statement. I'm trying to remember who the gun belonged to. I don't know that there was testimony as to ownership of the firearm. What I remember, again, I mostly listened to Lori's opening. As far as prosecution's opening, it was on and off because I listened to that while I was at work. Whereas Lori's opening, I listened to that on the live. I'm trying to remember because there was this whole thing about, the husband being wasn't he a left-hand dominant? I believe that's what she said during her opening. So I'm just trying to figure out as far as, a left-handed gun, right-handed gun, is the claim that the gun actually belonged to the husband? Because if the gun belonged to the husband, then for sure, I understand why it would make sense for her to bring this up. But if the gun belonged to the brother, then I have questions for you, Lori.
People do.
If you're left-handed, you'd want that, I guess.
Look, I
Okay.
guess.
So in this particular case, when you said in your report that the shells bounced off the wall, they had gone to the right, like they were supposed to. Is that correct?
That is what I was operating off of, yes.
And then they would have bounced to the left,
Yes, because that makes sense.
and they would have landed to the left of my husband. Is that where they were found?
Along the west wall.
Okay. But
I like that she refers to him as her husband, as opposed to first name.
how close to the wall were they found?
The pictures show where they were found. They're relatively close to the wall, inches away.
I was gonna say inches,
Yes,
not feet, but inches.
correct.
And would that be a normal trajectory from hitting the wall to where they landed?
I am not surprised by seeing that, yes.
According to how fast they would be going. How fast does a casing come out of a gun? I don't really know.
I've never chronographed a
Lori.
casing coming out of a gun. I've only chronographed bullets. So I have no idea how fast a casing comes out. It doesn't come out with enough force to really hurt anybody.
So there weren't any divots in the wall or anything like that because,
There could be microscopic divots, but it'd be very difficult to find.
and you didn't find any that were visible to the eye?
Nothing that's caught my eye, no.
So were you there at the time when Alex did the walkthrough?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you were there. Did he describe where he was standing?
Sustained.
Did he show you physically where he was standing?
Sustained.
No, I disagree with the judge's ruling there. Because okay, the first part when Lori's pretty much eliciting what the brother said, that's for sure hearsay. But as far as a demonstration, that is not hearsay.
Was there a wall right next to where he was standing?
Sustained.
That is not hearsay. Hearsay is an out-of-court statement. That is not a statement. The out-of-court statement offered to prove the truth
No, I'm
of the
not
matter.
asking for the
asserted.
truth of the matter.
I disagree. Ooh, wait. What? Shout out to Lori. I think, what did Lori just say?
Your Honor, I'm not asking for the truth of the matter asserted. I'm saying he observed this person standing in the.
Shout out to Lori, you guys. Lori studied a little bit. She did not study all the way. She did not study all the way. She did not hit all the points. She studied a little bit. A little bit.
That place.
Well, you can ask him if he observed Mr. Cox standing in that place.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that actually would have been a better question if she just, said my brother was standing here or whatever, or Alex was standing here or whatever. But shout out to Lori, though. She got that right because the judge, that was an incorrect ruling, sir.
Okay. Did you observe Mr. Cox standing in the room where he told you
That is too, Lori, that is way too broad. You have to narrow it down.
the gun was?
I observed him standing in the vicinity that he indicated.
And was that in the hallway or in?
Okay, she's doing some proper She's doing a little proper cross-examination a little bit.
The main room?
Yeah, and that's not again as far as she's giving this witness way too many options. Wherever you think your brother was standing or whatever the evidence showed, that's what you ask. He says yes or no.
Right.
The what is this? The prosecutor's panicking a little bit.
If the question is in relation to Mr. Cox showing or recreating or demonstrating, then the objection is sustained.
Where did you observe Mr. Cox standing
That girl recovered a little bit.
when he went through the walkthrough to?
Well, that's the testimony that I'm saying is a form of
What's the question?
testimony.
Oh,
Through the
I'm sorry.
walkthrough to?
Well, that
Mr. Cox standing when he went through the walkthrough to?
well, that's the
Where did you observe him standing? Go that.
testimony that I'm saying is a form of hearsay. So please ask a different question.
I'm trying to understand, Your Honor. So
Lori, your work here is not to understand. That's why you're cross-examining this witness. I don't know what book you are reading, but you need to go back to your rules of evidence a little bit.
what the witness observed is not relevant?
I didn't say that.
Yeah, that's not the objection was not sustained on grounds of relevance.
Let's do a sidebar.
Okay, I would love that.
Lori, our girl said she would love it. I'd love it. So, all right. Oh, they're high tech over here. Yeah, high tech in Arizona. All right, let's go.
Shooter in
Okay, hold on.
Standing.
I was so tired
Detective
before I got
Coons,
up
where
here.
would you place the shooter standing in that room?
I would place the shooter in the area of where the curve of the wall was and
Actually, a good question.
the kind of the hallway entry area,
What's the
somewhere in that
distance?
general area.
So would you have it, what direction would you place him standing? Facing, I mean, not standing, but facing.
For which shot?
The first one.
The first one in a more easterly direction.
Oh no, I need a map or something. They need to put. Where's your exhibit, Lori? This is exactly where you should have had some type of exhibit demonstration for the jurors. Because I don't know what your living room or whatever it is look like. So yeah, Lori, tomorrow, the day after, show up with some demonstrations. Okay, give us a map. Give us something.
And the second?
In a more northern direction with a slight deviation to the east.
So would you have him stepping forward? Is that what you're saying?
No,
He said,
What
no.
direction would you have him moving?
I didn't
Yeah,
say this.
Lori, you're supposed to, again, the problem is she's trying to seek clarification. That is not why she's cross-examining. So whatever her theory is, that's exactly what she's supposed to be asking the witness about. And it has to be yes, no responses.
The shooter moved.
You're just saying that he shot from a different angle?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you think he was standing in the same location?
I don't know that.
So if you do not know that, then how are you comfortable testifying or speculating that he did not move? Come on, Lori, follow up, follow up, follow up. Lori, you better not let this guy go. Like, follow up. He just said that he does not know where the shooter was standing. So don't let him go now.
According to where you put him standing with the first shot, the casing bounced off of the wall to the right and landed to the left.
Compound objection.
Correct.
And then where you have him standing in the second shot,
Lori,
the same
give us a map. Give us something. Just give us something.
thing happened.
Approximately, yes.
And how far apart were those casings found?
I don't have the specific measurement of how far apart they were. They were a few feet.
So they're a few feet apart.
Yes.
Lori,
So if he was standing in the same place, would they be a few feet apart? Or would they be closer?
A shout out to my girl, Lori. That's probably the best question or follow-up question I've ever heard her ask. So
It depends on a different
shout out to Lori.
amount of things, like how was the gun being held? Was it canted to the side? Was it not? What the angle was?
So he's
Could the shooter have moved?
speculating.
A little, but it would have been in the same general vicinity.
But you said he didn't move,
Exactly. I was just about to say, get him, Lori, get him, Lori.
according to you.
I said I didn't say he moved.
So he could have moved because they were more than
Get
a
him.
foot apart, the casings found.
A little, yes. Would have been in the same general area.
So he could have taken a couple steps.
Perhaps. Could have slid the body sideways.
He's just speculating at this point.
Anything that you can do to the body, it could have been done in a short area.
So you were not there, Detective, whatever your name is, and you do not know, Detective, whatever your name is. Come on, Lori.
And is that common in, I don't know with
Stop asking about whether it's common or not.
shooting, if it's that common with someone to shoot once and then move and shoot
Lori,
again?
you are going at a good. Why don't you just keep with the same line of questioning?
Speculation, relevance,
I'll sustain it on speculation.
In your experience as a firearms expert who fires a lot of guns, right?
She's funny.
Would that be a common thing to do?
An objection is to speculation as to when, where, circumstances.
All right, I'll sustain the objection as to speculation.
Dang, Lori.
Let's talk about stippling.
Okay.
The first shot, according to you, had stippling. Is that correct?
No,
It did not have any stippling.
none was observed.
And the second shot,
None was observed.
no stippling was observed.
Correct.
Lori, did you not review discovery?
Is that what's in the ME's report?
I believe so.
You're supposed to know that, Lori.
That there was no stippling?
Did you catch him, Lori? Okay, Lori, who are you looking at now?
Can I have a minute, Your Honor?
Okay. Oh, Lori, she's something else. All right, let's fast forward a little bit.
See,
Oh, hold on.
when you were observing the autopsy, the
What? Are you just gonna change course?
ME didn't say anything about stippling,
Lori, what happened?
I don't recall any mention about stippling.
and you didn't have a discussion with him about it?
We would have if he'd observed any.
And so if he said that to someone else,
Said
you would
that.
be surprised?
Said what?
I don't know what he,
That's not a proper question. It's not a complete question, but I guess I understand what you're saying.
he had in his notes. I didn't author his report.
Can you describe stippling for us? What that is?
Sure. It's basically a combination of particles that come out from behind or follow the projectile as it exits the barrel. A lot of times it's partial burned or unburned powder, and it's a short distance phenomena, so the person has to be extremely close
Right.
for the pattern to actually present itself and the particles embed in the clothing or the skin.
Yep.
So if stippling was found, how far away would the gun have to be from the victim
That depends on the gun.
Yeah, depends.
on this 45 semi-automatic?
I am not a expert on the stippling patterns. That is something that we would have to send to the lab for. And what they would do is they would test it with witness panels at different distances to give that information.
Is there an estimate?
That's where it would come in. Usually the medical examiner, if they observe stippling, will give an estimate of close or contact.
So would you be surprised if he said 2 to 4 feet?
If that's what he says.
That if there's stippling, then the gun would have to be 2 to 4 feet.
It's possible, but I wouldn't hold my hat on that, no.
Everything is possible.
I would have to have the gun tested for that.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay?
And
Is this a good spot to break for the evening?
Sure, Your
I
Honor.
mean, I'm not cutting you off. If you want to ask a few more questions, that's fine.
Nope, that's fine.
She said
All right,
nope.
we'll take our evening recess.
All right, so she did okay. Lori did okay, but this case has enough issues where where a trained attorney could have actually done some. They could have preserved some of her rights. I just, again, I don't know what the argument was. I don't know why she did not want her attorneys anymore, but she did herself a grave disservice because there are some pretty decent issues that could have been fought in court, but Lori is just Lori. So, in any event, folks, we will reconvene tomorrow. Tomorrow, though, I might start sooner. Let me think about it. I'm considering starting at 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, just so that because there's a witness that we skipped over. No, we listened to him. Yeah, I don't think we actually did. We get into this cross? I don't think so. Yeah, I'll watch this when I get to work tomorrow. But yeah, this would have been a really decent criminal defense case, but Lori's just I don't know. Lori's just a sell. Okay, so Benji's on board with 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. That will give us a little bit more time to, hang out because we do not know what we're gonna get into tomorrow. Okay. All right, Benji, thanks for, hanging out. Shout out to all the co-counsels. Shout out to the replay crew. I hope you guys have a fantastic. Oh, I just remembered on Thursday. No, I can make it. I can make it on Thursday because my kid has a concert. Yeah. Thursday will have to be much later. Thursday's probably going to be 9 because I'm not sure what time. I have to look up the times. I'm not sure what time the concert ends. So, okay. As for tomorrow, though, let's start 8 p.m. Eastern time, all right? See you guys. See you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic Wednesday.